Cool. All right, ladies and gentlemen, ladies, for the next half an hour, we're going to be talking about let's fix this fucker before it breaks. Okay. Because you got to get a little nerdy first. So the second law of thermodynamics says that additional energy must be added to a system for it to remain static. Now, if you do not remember your high school physics classes, let me paraphrase this. Basically, nothing ever stays fixed, ever, never, ever. Everything is either breaking, broken, starting to break, recovering from being broken. So everything is in a real state of needing to be fixed all the time. And the best time to fix something is actually before you start even building it. And listen, I know that is some like mind-bendy, like time collapsing in on himself, Doctor Who, Neil deGrasse Tyson needs to explain this to me stuff. But it's true. Everything is either broken or breaking. And in your agency, you cannot possibly fix everything all at the same time. It cannot be done. So what we need to do is we need to break your agency down into a series of projects. Now, there are some projects you only do a couple of times, right? Like you might launch your own website, maybe a handful of times in the course of your agency. You might launch a new service, maybe once a year, maybe every other year. There's other stuff you do all the time, like onboard a client, campaigns, you offboard an employee, whatever. There's stuff that you do every day. But these are all projects that are in the process of breaking right before your very eyes, people. It's terror. It's awful. Entropy is it's a destructive force. But we are going to get together. We're going to spend a little time together and we're going to be able to fix it. Okay. So before you start something, you got to look at it and think, God, what could go wrong here? Now, I will tell you, that is not my jam at all, because like I am constantly thinking, let's go, it's going to be better. It's going to, let's get some motion happening and it's going to explode. And I can only see the potential and the possibility. Just look at me, people. Just look at me. So many things have gone in order for this phase to turn out this way, like so many things have gone wrong. And so even though we are hardwired as entrepreneurs to be more optimistic, more enthusiastic, more, holy shit, I'm going to figure this the fuck out. Entropy is part of our lives all the time. It's even worse when you're thinking, like, we do this all the time, so I'm not going to pay attention to it anymore. And by the way, this is a biological trick that your brain plays on you, because your brain actually uses like 30 or 40% of 20 to 30% of your calories. So your brain wants to take shortcuts because it evolved at a time when there wasn't enough food. And so your brain wants to take shortcuts so it doesn't use as many calories. And that's what happens when you are doing the same thing over and over again. All the stuff that can break, like, you don't even see. So we're going to talk about a way to manage the little stuff that can go wrong, or in the processes that you do regularly. And then we'll talk about some bigger stuff. So before you do something that you've done 1,000 times before, and this is terrific. If you're thinking about running an onboarding meeting, cool. Like, you do that all the time. Hopefully you do that all the time, but you need to just take a minute and think, have we changed anything since I've done this prior? Have I changed the way that I think since I did this the last time? Is there anything different about these circumstances, people, process, the companies involved, the market environment? Have I accounted for those things? Am I aware of those things? And is the other person or the other party involved in this in the same spot as I would expect them to be. And just taking 1 minute to do this before you actually go do the thing, you are running through this really unbelievably comprehensive checklist of, holy shit, is there stuff that I didn't think about that I ought to be thinking about? And so that's like a micro pre-mortem that I do probably 5 times a day. Now, some of it's a little bit automatic and you get lazy, but the thing that I always focus on is the other party involved here. Are they in the space that I expect them to be? And is there some way, can I ascertain that? Or do I have to assume that something's changed because that will change the way that I act? And the cool thing here is those changes that you make in your choices and the way that you act, those are the ones that will make the process more successful. Because if you are relying on a process that has been static for a long time, or you think it's been static, and you did not apply any additional energy to keep it in stasis, it has become really entropic and it's fallen apart, and you didn't even think about that. So just take 1 minute when you're doing the stuff that you regularly do. What changed? Did I change? Is anything different? And do I know where the other party is relative to the last time I spoke to them? Like, all of that stuff will help you not fail on the little stuff. That's super crucial. And by the way, it is these micro failures in everyday processes that really create like an unsynergistic kind of way of being. And you start to feel the bumps and you hear the engine knocking and the car just doesn't sound right anymore. And it's because of all these little things that have gone out of tolerance. And the best way to bring them back is just to go through this little process super quickly for small things. Now, for large projects, and this is like you're launching a new service, or you're like completely changing, you're doing something big and hairy. You got to do a catastrophic brainstorm before you start. Now, I'll tell you a super quick story. My wife, she's an executive function coach. So she lives in a world of checklists and processes and things that, and contingencies. So when we are trying to go out, like, I'm just thinking, everybody get in the car, we're going to go, because I am so sure that I am so freaking capable that I'll just fucking figure it out when I get there. She can't work that way. It's impossible. And so we have all of this tension around people thinking like I'm like, let's go. And she's, let's not, because we haven't thought about every possible thing. But as in all things, my wife is right. Because when you are just in go mode, you haven't thought about what can go wrong. And guess what? When you're in go mode and stuff goes wrong, you are in a spot where you don't have the resources you need. So when you are thinking about a very big plan, and this is a larger pre-mortem, you gotta ignore your intentions and your plans. They don't matter. You cannot get caught up in your own emotional, excitable, it's all going to be amazing bullshit. You got to only think about what can go wrong. Assume that nothing is as you have thought. So it does not matter how carefully you have thought about it for the purposes of a pre-mortem. All of your assumptions are wrong. You've also got to challenge your perception of what's possible, because often we discount things that we don't think to be a strong possibility. And what it really is that we don't want to think about the fact that those things could happen. And you've got to challenge your perspective, your perception of likely, because likely means it is just like there's a 0.00001% greater chance that it'll happen than it will not. And so you have got to be really clear-eyed about your definition of likely or not likely. And you really have to challenge your perception of the impact of something going wrong. Because I am totally in the shit, went wrong? We'll figure it out. We'll recover. I feel like I'm quick on my feet. It'll be fine. That's cool if you're, I don't know, doing a comedy act or something. But if you're leading a team of people and you get forced into reactive mode where you have to figure stuff out on the fly, you just failed. So let's get into a real catastrophic brainstorm here. So as I was thinking about this presentation, I was thinking about all of the stuff that could go wrong. I could forget what time it is. That's not beyond me. Chris decides he might hate me. My OnlyFans leaks and nobody can pay attention to what I'm saying. I might have an allergy attack and I can't see, or my computer doesn't work. Like this is all stuff that, holy moly, this is rough. Like all these things could go wrong. And so what I do is I put these things on a graph, on a 2x2 matrix. It's really simple. There is high likelihood, low likelihood, low impact, and high impact. And you just you sort all of your nightmares into these boxes. Now, if Chris Dubois decides he hates me, guess what? I don't care. I have the screen. If he hates me now, it's too late. So there's a very high likelihood that he will hate me, but it's really low impact because I'm controlling my presentation. Now, my OnlyFans, if that gets out, well, there's a really low likelihood that my OnlyFans will leak out because I don't have one. Therefore, it's really low impact. Or if I did have one, I swear to God, none of you people would want to look at it because I'm spiritually beautiful, not physically beautiful. Now, the things that are the things that could go wrong, for getting the presentation done, that's a real risk. So that would be high impact. And because I'm terrible with time, that is, that's really likely. I have an allergy attack and I can't see or speak or whatever. It's pollen season. That is likely to happen. And it would be high impact because if I can't see or speak, I cannot do the work that I'm doing here. The camera doesn't work. My webcam sometimes is emotional. And so it doesn't work. And so that's something that is likely to happen. And it would have a really high impact. Computer doesn't work. That seems a little bit less likely to me because I work on my computer all the time. It doesn't seem like anything's wrong. And the internet shits the bed. I paid the bill. My router's okay. Things seem to be all right. So that seems like that would be super high impact. But to tell you the truth, it does not seem like it's terribly likely. So what you do after you sort all of your nightmares, if it's low impact and it's high likelihood, but it's low impact, you know what? Think about ways you can mitigate the risk, but be ready to roll with the punches. Because if it's low impact, it's probably not going to really destroy anything. If it's low impact and low likelihood, just monitor it, pay attention, know that threat exists. Again, low impact, low likelihood. And if it does happen, it's probably not a huge deal. Now, on the right side of this, where we've got high impact. So if things are likely to happen, you perceive them to be that 0.00000 1% more likely to happen than not, you have to take proactive steps to avoid, kill, or defeat them. Allergy issue? I took a Zyrtec this morning. I'm good. Camera. I have a backup camera. My phone is ready to go. If my camera shits the bed, I have a backup. Other things, if the internet goes down, I don't have full control over that, but I am going to mitigate the risk of that by making sure that my equipment's okay and that my bill is paid. And so this pre-mortem gives me a series of threats to address, actions to take, so that the outcome is going to be better, so that the plan is going to be better. And you can't do this once you start. You got to do this beforehand. All right. Now, we're thinking about it this way. So you finish the project and it went amazing or great or blah, 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 or is what the fuck is going on here? So this is the time for the postmortem. So let's fucking do this. By the way, that's the total extent of my multimedia capabilities. So I hope you appreciated that. All right. So after a project is done or a process is over, you need to sit down and think about it. And you should not do this on your own. You cannot do this on your own, in fact. You've got to think, okay, what were the results? Were they good? Were they bad? Was it what we expected or not? And which elements do we think basically played into those results? And then you need to break it down even further into what worked, what sucked, and you put those results, what worked and what sucked, into the fourth column, into what are we going to change? And so here you are essentially thinking, what are the things that we want to lock down and amplify? What are the things we want to kill or avoid? And what are the controllable elements that worked for us or against us? Also, this is a kind of a nuanced thought, is at what point should we have course corrected or doubled down? We had a choice at some point, like we could have course corrected and thought, oh, this is probably not going to work. I should change, or this really works well. I'm going to do more of it. And so you put all of that stuff into a list. Now, here's a couple of rules about the postmortem. You are a participant in the process, not the leader. And even if you were the only one in the project, like I'm the only one doing this particular project in my company, I'm a participant in the process, not the leader. So when I talk to the other folks on my team about how this went, they're telling me, I'm not telling them. Also, my insider opinion is no more valuable. My experiences are no more valuable. You should do way more shutting up than blabbing during the postmortem if you are in a leadership position. And if things are not going well and you get defensive, well, congratulations, you have just lost your whole team. They suddenly see you differently and you are fucked. So postmortems are crucial. You need to do them after every significant change in your company, and you can schedule them after things that you do regularly. Like you should do a postmortem after every client onboarding. You should do a postmortem after every sales process. All right. So now we're off to the RACI. So at the end of the postmortem, we had this giant list of things, of projects that needed to be adjusted, changed, thought about. Now, how do you manage that? Welcome to RACI. This is a thinking framework or an organizational framework that breaks down the roles of people who are involved in change really simply. You got somebody who's responsible, somebody who's accountable, the people that are consulted, and the people that are informed. And I know that we are running short on time. We got 8 minutes, so I'm going to ram through this. So as the agency CEO, you are always the accountable person. The buck stops with you. If shit doesn't get done, if bad things happen, or if like things don't change, that's on you. Now, because you're only one person and, if you're like me, your brain is pretty full already. You have really got to think, okay, I've got other people on my team. I've got other resources. How do I use them? You think about who can be responsible for carrying out this change or evaluating the options that we came up with. Also, you need to know who that person needs to consult with. Are there subject matter experts or people who actively work in the process every day? And also, who needs to be informed about changes to the process? Because even if you're just the lowest form of worker bee, when processes change, that impacts you. So you need to know about it. So what are we going to change? That's your project list. RACI is your get shit done machine. So we're just going to run through a super quick example. Campaign performance. So the campaign, and I'm going to spit out basically the end of the postmortem. So the campaign didn't achieve its desired results. The things that we think didn't go well, after discussion, we think the campaign brief kind of sucked ass. We think the solution is to make better campaign briefs and improve our process. And the desired outcome, our campaigns then hit the targets. Pretty simple. But this is where the magic really happens. So accountable, making the campaigns achieve their desired state, that's always on you primarily. Like at the end of the day, that's you. Responsible, like who is going to lead this change and how do they lead this change? Now, the way that they lead this change is you as the leader of the business. Take the beautiful orb, the shining warm orb of authority and autonomy, and you hand it to the person who is responsible for implementing the change. And you must do this. You must give them the authority to make the decisions within the realm of making the change. And you have to give them the autonomy to act on them. And this is crucial because in solo founder or small agencies, authority rests entirely with the CEO and nobody has autonomy. But when you want to get shit done, you've got to take authority and autonomy and hand them to somebody clearly, conclusively, in public. So everybody knows that this person that you've defined as the responsible person speaks with the same authority that you do, and they have the autonomy to take actions that they think are correct. And this is the crucial part of RACI, by the way, the transition of authority and autonomy. All right. Once you hand off that beautiful orb of authority and autonomy, you are now the support team. Just as a macro thing, in case you didn't know this, as the CEO, you are always the support team, but that's hard to remember. So your job when you're trying to fix something is not to be the owner of the fix. Your job is to make sure that the responsible person has every single freaking thing they could ever need to get it done. And you're giving them the autonomy to say, hey, I need people, or I need budget, or I need software, or I need time and space and popcorn. So you offer support and resources, but the job of understanding and creating the change is theirs to own. Now, this ought to make you feel good because finally there's something you don't have to do in your agency. Ooh, yeah, that's a big relief. Now, the remaining part of the RACI format is consulted and informed. So those are usually like the subject matter experts, probably you, in almost every circumstance I can think of, where the responsible person gets information and insight from. But when you are both the accountable person and you are living in the consulted role, You are not speaking as the CEO. You are just speaking as somebody who has more information that you can share with the responsible person. And then the informed, as we talked about before, there are people who need to know about the changes. Okay, now how does this help? It takes something off your plate, keeping you in the loop in a positive way. It empowers your team to have ownership and take action without you having to be the catalyst. And it makes it clear who owns what, who needs to be involved, and who has a stake in this change. The cool thing is you can actually build RACI into a lot of project management tools. These all have either native RACI modules or something you can plug in super easily. I'm guessing that there's more tools that have this built in, but this is super, super important, and it makes it really easy. I don't know if you know who this person is. Her name is Brene Brown. She is a researcher and writer, and she focuses on management and emotions. She has this awesome catchphrase: clarity is kindness. And your job as the CEO or the founder is to be as kind as possible to your team, to your customers, to your supporters. So you've got to be really clear with them. One of the ways you can be really clear is by understanding obstacles before you start, recognizing obstacles that emerged while you were doing the thing, and having the graciousness to hand authority and autonomy over to people so that they can fix something. All right, so we learned today that everything is broken or is breaking. Suck it up. It's only physics. The best time to fix something is before you even thought of it being built. The second time is right now. You can't fix everything, so start small. Do that micro pre-mortem. It's going to make a difference. For bigger projects, get a group to do a large pre-mortem and think about every catastrophe that you could not imagine could really happen. After the project over, do a postmortem. And when you're doing the postmortem, you're just part of the committee. You're not the leader of the team. And when it comes for the fix, you aren't the leader. You're not taking the charge. You are accountable to the stakeholders of the business that these changes get made, but you are handing off authority and autonomy to the responsible person so that they can affect change. You now work for them by the way you always did. And RACI is kindness in action. So next steps, you can find me. If you want to hang out with me, I've got a newsletter, a Slack group. And I didn't know if this was okay, Chris, but if you guys want to take an assessment, or if you jump into my newsletter, I will send you some cool frameworks and tools around this. Thanks so much for your time and attention. I hope you found this to be helpful. You can find me at timkilroy.com. You can find me on LinkedIn. And if you want to take the WTF agency reality check, go to timkilroy.com/WTF-assessment.